Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Surcharge. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Surcharge. Sorry, Scott Godberson. The word of the day is not 50-50. What am I talking about? It's a new contest we're doing. Whoever gets my word of the day in advance, get on the chat live, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific. You can do it. I'm doing it right now. You can wake up. If you're in the chat and you guess the word of the day, you're getting free merch. Yesterday, Scott guessed it. He knew that the word of the day would be, and I can't remember what the word of the day was, Coca, but the word of the day was something yesterday, and Scott got it. Did anyone get surcharge today? We'll do that every day now. What was it, Coca? Someone got it today again? All right, we're going to have to do way better. Well, hold on a second. If we're going to do the contest right, you have to not give away the surcharge. You have to not give away the word of the day in the title of the episode. Or I just have to be better at being more creative at going to my synonym antonym dictionary. In any case, it's a fun contest. Guess the word of the day, win some Nothing Personal merch on davidsamsonpodcast.com. Surcharge, let's get right to it. We got a busy show. We're going to start in college football. Tennessee announced something yesterday that's so spectacular. They're announcing a ticket surcharge, but wait for it. This ticket surcharge that they are going to put on the price of their tickets is for the athletes. This is not an anti-athlete. They're not employees. Players don't deserve to get paid. No, I'm not going down that road. I leave that to all of you to decide because we've debated it ad nauseum in the media. I've told you where I am, so you know. If you want to make players employees and they want to unionize and they want to get paid, great. Just know you're signing up for full college free agency, which is what I told you, and that has manifested itself in something called the transfer portal. Here's the thing about player contracts increasing. It's the same as when the airlines are forced to pay more for fuel or Uber. What do? Take a look at your bill. Have you ever checked out of a hotel and looked at that bill? There's surcharges left and right. During COVID, people were upcharging you to do the extra cleanings. Companies now are asking you to pay the credit card surcharge. Never used to have to pay that. So use a credit card, 2.5% to 3% more, because that's the money they have to pay to the credit card companies when credit cards are used. And they're saying, I'm not going to lose margin. Let's PITC. Pass it to consumer. We talked about pass it to consumer. It's a very common subject. It comes up in every negotiation for a new stadium. It comes up whenever you are pricing your goods and services. How much can you pass it to consumer? One of the ways that people talk about funding stadiums, you don't hear about it as much anymore because people got a little smarter. It was called the PSL. That's a personal seat license. That's when you have to pay for the right to buy the season ticket. And then what the team does is they use the money that you've paid in order to have the right to buy the season tickets. They use that money as collateral to borrow more money. A ticket surcharge. I fought that every single year. We didn't want ticket surcharges going to the county or the city in Miami-Dade, because if we were able to charge more for tickets, we wanted that money. Teams fight these surcharges. It's not just me. It's every team fights these. You'll read often when it just happened. God, Coca, this is a moment. Is this a Pacific time issue? I don't think so. But we just did a topic where there was a clause in the deal. The Philadelphia 76ers. Thank you, Coca. Remember what the Sixers said just last week. We're not taking public money, but if you give public money to someone else, we want it. That's how we viewed everything, like ticket surcharges. Hey, you don't do that to anyone else, don't do it to us. And no one wanted ticket surcharges. So why is Tennessee doing this? Well, now we have to get a little deeper into the conversation. There is a antitrust lawsuit that happened. And to put it in its simplest terms, players have said, listen, we want to get paid. The NCAA had said, I think you guys are amateurs and you shouldn't get paid. Players said, hold on, I think we got a winner here. And the court said, you got yourself a winner. That was the huge NCAA case, the huge NIL case, the huge ruling, the huge settlement. And what this settlement is going to do, this lawsuit that was settled, basically, to really bring it down to brass tacks, players are getting a piece of the pie. Players in the NBA get a piece of the pie, NFL, NHL, MLB. It is a very, very common thing. Employee-owned stock plans. There are companies all over the world, all over our country, where employees have a piece of the company. It doesn't mean they have operating control. It doesn't mean that they are in the C-suite. It doesn't mean they're making decisions of any kind, but they can get a piece of the profit. So what players have gotten as this settlement is money, which then forces the schools to figure out, well, if we pay them money, that's got to come from somewhere. So maybe we're going to shut down some other non-revenue producing sports. Maybe we're going to have to take away some chairs that are not endowed in science. Maybe we are going to increase the cost of tickets in order to get players money, and we'll take a percentage of the increased price and we'll put that aside to give to players. Sounds innocent enough, doesn't it? Sounds like a very logical way. Here's the thing about being a consumer. You're the one as a consumer who tells us as an operator when we've gone too far, because we're going to keep going. We're going to keep increasing prices until everybody says it's too much. And when I get an email at davidsamsonpodcast.com or someone goes on my Twitter and says, I'm so upset with these price increases, I no longer can go to games. Don't they care about me? And I always give the honest response back, which is no, they don't care about you. Now, if you are everyone, then all of a sudden they will care about you. So Tennessee is putting this surcharge on tickets. They're saying that maybe it can raise $10 million. And they're saying that's not even enough for what we're going to have to pay players. We could have done an even bigger surcharge, but we're just going to leave it at 10%. 10%. That means if you're paying $50 for your ticket to go see Tennessee, your ticket price is going to be $55. Now, you're not getting anything extra. It's not like you're getting an extra soda, beer, chips, pop, corn, nothing. That extra $5, right to the player. What do you think about that? Does that make sense to you? I can't hear your answers, so I'm going to answer that for you if you don't mind. Of course it makes sense. It's what every team is going to do. Tennessee just did it first. The ticket surcharge is one way to do it. Whatever they have to do. The funniest thing is that Tennessee is going to get some bad PR for this. They could just have increased the prices that much more, not called it a ticket surcharge, and allocated an amount of the tickets to the players and not said a word. That's another way to do it. There's another way to do it. All these teams are trying to figure out, how do we satisfy the terms of this settlement? How do we get players paid? It is hard to believe what is happening in Georgia right now. Governor Brian Kemp yesterday did something. This is good. He signed an order. It's like an executive order. It's what presidents can do, and some of them matter, some of them don't. There's different branches of government that all work together in theory to make it as a check on the power of each of the branches. We've sort of lost our way on that, but that's a totally different story. But what the governor did, signing an order, he is now prohibiting the NCAA or any conference from punishing any university or college in Georgia for paying its players. People got a little confused about this yesterday because someone wrote into me, wow, I can't believe that that's it. The governor's making the players get paid now. No, that's not what happened. The governor signed an order saying that if Georgia wants to pay its players, it can pay its players. Right now, there is a rule the NCAA has that currently prohibits schools from directly paying athletes for NIL. That's why you get all these NIL collectives. That's why you get all these different funds and companies and people. Sounds like boosters. I wonder what's changed. The fact that it's just over the table, not under the table. In any case, there is a rule that you can't directly pay the players. That rule is likely to go away. We don't know when, we don't know how, but it's going to be soon. And what the governor was doing was saying, hey, Georgia, I got you covered. The minute the rule goes away, you can start paying your players, and you can therefore not be behind any of the other teams in our conference who are already paying their players. It's a very bizarre thing, and I wanted to give you a potential reason other than what's stated, because the governor was pretty clear about why he did it. The athletic director of Georgia was pretty clear about why he did it. Keep in mind, Georgia Tech, sort of the two big schools in the state, they want to pay their players immediately. They would be interested in doing that. And the executive order just gives them that option. So, the reason for the governor to do it now and not wait, does it have to do with recruiting? Does it have to do with positioning his state better than any of the other states? What could have been the quid pro quo that would have led the athletic director of Georgia to say, we extend our sincere gratitude to Governor Brian Kemp for his leadership today? In the absence of a nationwide NIL regulation, this executive order helps our institutions with the tools to fully support our student athletes in their pursuit of NIL. Interesting. So what the governor is going to claim on his platform is he's so pro NIL, so pro making sure that Georgia can compete, that he is now, by signing it, enabled his schools to be at the forefront of something, wait for it, that's already happening. I'm on an island here, Coco, and it makes me crazy. I've been against NIL from the start. When I saw the Dartmouth basketball team try to unionize, I was completely against that. But what I said was, if they're going to unionize, which there's still an appeal, they have unionized. Remember, there's the whole fight going on because they can't get a CBA because Dartmouth's not negotiating with them. That's a previous episode. I say, let's go all the way. Sly Fox, why not? Let's just make players fully employed. Fully, in every way. Give them benefits, give them insurance, do it all. Give them salaries. But here's how salaries are going to work. When you stink, You're not going to make a lot. When you're really good, you're going to make a lot. No problem. There'll be big market colleges. There'll be small market colleges, sort of like the power conferences now, sort of like Division I, Division II, Division III. You'll have huge disparity on your team. I can't wait to see what happens when a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds are dealing with the social class system in the way major league clubhouses are, where there are players making 30 million and there are players making 750 grand. You can say those are first world problems, but those are issues that happen. There are decisions that get made by the GM, who's now the athletic director in college. That's what they'll become. The president of the university will become the president of the team. Who's the owner? Who decides final budgets? Will there be open windows of competing, then closed windows? You know what? Forget it. Let's just make it a league. Why don't we just make all college sports the minor leagues? Let's finally do it. Let's make it the feeder to the NFL, which it always has been. Let's make it the feeder to baseball, which it never has been. The feeder to basketball, which it never has been because it's one and done. We can just make it a whole different league. I'm in. Let's make players have to play there all 4 years. We want to talk about protecting the students. Okay. We'll call them employees, but we'll say they have to play for 4 years. Any interest in that deal? Think the players would do that? We'll pay you, but we're going to spend the money to develop you. Then you got to stay 4 years. And by the way, you have to get a degree. I wonder what that would lead to. Going back to my classes in Wisconsin and remembering how some of the football players got through. It may be interesting. You know what I'd prefer Georgia to be focused on if I'm the governor? And I'm sorry to keep talking about this, Coca. But do you know what else is going on with the Georgia football team? Just out of curiosity, if I had to give you an over-under since January of 23, the number of people from the program who have been arrested or cited for driving-related offenses, what's the over-under that you'd say? I mean, it's almost swamp-like. It's almost Florida-like. 25 people from the program have been arrested for driving-related offenses. They just had a player arrested this past week, their cornerback, Daniel Harris. Reckless driving, 4 misdemeanors. He was doing 106 on the loop near College Station. This is the same school where, remember, the offensive lineman and the recruiting staffer guy, they were killed in a racing crash in January of 23. Remember that? Nah, don't worry. I think it's very good that we keep putting money in the hands of young people. It's very, very helpful. College sports has an issue. You know what they're not studying in college? I wonder if the Governor Kemp, has put any time, money, or any research into concussions. I'm going to talk about Tua one more time. 4.869. Can we talk about Tua in a way that maybe has not been discussed before? Yesterday, the Miami Dolphins put him on the IR, injured reserve. He's out until week 8 at least. Yesterday was Tuesday. Do you remember the day that he got hurt? It was Thursday. It was a Thursday night game against Buffalo. It's a week ago tomorrow. I've taken the time to speak to several doctors, none of whom have examined Tua, but I've spoken to them over the years about concussions. I think about concussions all the time. This actually started my interest in concussions, and everyone has something happen to them that makes them interested in it. When Stanton got hit in the face with a ball, I said, I better start learning more about what would happen if one of our players got hit in the head, in the face, and it wasn't just about losing a tooth, where there were concussions. Obviously, the CTE settlements in the NFL and understanding the legal implications, how the money is distributed. We've done segments on that with Nothing Personal, but I'm fascinated with how this new protocol works, where there's an independent doctor. There's 5 steps, 5 stages. The final one is approval by the independent doctor, so teams can't pressure a player and players can't pressure a team. Both happen equally. Don't kid yourself. Not those necessarily with guaranteed money, but players without guaranteed money, they want to play. I would like to institute a rule. And here is what I would do in order to make players safe. I want to take money out of their pocket. Now, the owners wouldn't get it. So I want to be clear, this is not a pro ownership plan. But if you're paying a player $10 million and the player has a concussion, I want to take money away from the player who comes back too early. And I'm going to tell you what that definition is. But I'm not giving that money to the owner. That money is going to go into studying more equipment, whether it's the Guardian caps, whatever it is, to make the game safer. Whether it's football, baseball, take whatever sport you want. What's the definition of too early? That's what the fights are always about. You've got Coach Mike McDaniel saying, hey, I'm not really positive here. I just know he's talking to his teammates. He's jocular. We're taking it day by day. Well, you're not taking it day by day because that's not how concussions work in the first 5 days. Then Friday happens, Saturday, Sunday. Should he retire? Should he not retire? Every single sports talk show, people, including the coach of the Raiders, for crying out loud, has a comment or a thought on should Tua retire. You get analysis of the money he makes if he retires, if he doesn't retire, if he gets medical clearance, if he doesn't get medical clearance. All you're talking about is a negotiation between a player who will say, I'm ready to play because he wants his money, a team who, if the player is bad, does not want the player to be ready to play. So therefore, the player would not get part of the guarantee. In baseball, when the money is guaranteed, period, it's the team not necessarily fighting with the player. It's fighting with the insurance company if they have insurance. There's always people fighting over the money instead of fighting over the health. Our whole show is based on the money. So my suggestion when it comes to the health of players and concussions and issues like that is to take the money out of the equation. I'm not taking money out of the player. I'm not giving an opportunity for the team to get any savings. I'm creating a fund. And this fund is going to be called the concussion fund. The concussion fund is something that will pay players their guaranteed salary. And the teams will take the money that they are not paying the player and they will spend it in a way that will be tax deductible because it will be through a 501c3. They will spend it not as employee compensation. They will spend it on research. They will spend it on recovery. They will spend it on a way to actually make meaningful progress. I want to take away any incentive of a player to lie. Right now, Tua is highly incentivized, highly, tens of millions of dollars incentivized to say he's okay. There are opportunities to manipulate situations to get doctors, and I'm not impugning doctors, but I'm saying there are opportunities to manipulate a situation in order to get a doctor to say something that you want them to say. We were able to get our doctors, hey, I don't think he should pass his physical, do you? Hey, I'm not saying he failed it, but I'm saying I'd be worried if I were you. This elbow could blow any minute. When you mean any minute, like next pitch? Yeah, could be next pitch. Could be never. Could be next pitch. Not impugning team doctors. They're amazing. Love you, doc. From Cannell to Kaplan. But you know very well the relationship between teams and doctors. And the NFL solving it by an independent doctor? I'm not buying it. The reason why you have all of these layers put in is because of the money. The NFL will tell you, no, this is to protect the player. It's horse hockey. That's not what the current protocol does. Because just out of curiosity, what exactly changed between Sunday and Tuesday? Between Thursday and Sunday, Thursday and Tuesday? His symptoms are lessening. He doesn't see double anymore. He's in good mental state to make a decision. It should be automatic injured reserve when you have a concussion. There should be it's not a slate. It should be automatic. You miss 4 games, 8 games, 12 games, a season. We cannot let money be the deciding factor. And for so many players and teams, it is. when it comes to what we know. And what we know is that players are dying young. We know that CTE changes behavior. It makes you do things that you otherwise would not do. It makes you gaga, if not violent, if not a felon. We know this. By the way, you want to talk about all the debate about guardian caps? People are saying, it works, it doesn't work. How about if you've had a concussion? How about if Tua, when he comes back, if he comes back, or anyone who comes back from concussion, you have to wear the guardian cap? It's one way to find out if guardian caps help, isn't it? There's a reason why I'm discussing this now heading into the break. It's because of what we're going to review after the break. It will all come together very, very clearly when we come back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. We are coming at you live from the City of Angels. If you're listening to this, then you have no idea that I'm somewhere else. If you're watching, then you definitely know I'm somewhere else because it's a different background and it's really much earlier in the morning. But if I can do it, you can do it. We can all do it. Thank you for joining us every day on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you guess my word of the day before I give it, free merch on davidsamsonpodcast.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, David P. Samson. We're doing fun stuff. I got to do fun stuff in the last couple of days. More than that, I'm trying to think. On Pablo Torre Finds Out yesterday, there was a release of a show that Pablo, Dominique, and I recorded sometime last week. Dominique Foxworth, who you may remember, the three of us hosted the Le Batard Show for a week earlier this year. You may remember Dominique as a player. You may remember and know Dominique for his show, the Dominique Foxworth Show, his appearances on ESPN. He did a sit-down with us. He is a friend of the show. And I had an opportunity to watch American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez. American Sports Story it's a chain. Let's face it. They've had amazing, remember they did the O.J. Simpson, among others. This is the first one that's called American Sports Story because it's about Aaron Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez, the player for the Patriots, the former University of Florida tight end, the one who killed someone and went to jail for life and then died, suicide, and had the brain injury. Spoiler alert, that's not why you should watch American Sports Story. You should watch it for the unbelievable performance by the lead, Josh Rivera. You should watch it for the fantastic writing, including by Dominique Foxworth, who wrote episode 5. The first 2 are out, and it'll come out once a week from now until 10 episodes are out. He's the staff writer on the other 9 episodes. It is a extremely well-done series, which leans heavily on some things that you may know about Aaron Hernandez, some things that you don't. It questions what could have led to behavior, nature, nurture. The age-old question that never is answered. What makes people do what they do? What kind of trauma is the roadmap to behavior? Is it genetic mapping that leads to behavior? Is it football that leads to behavior? You've got 10 episodes to watch them unpack layer by layer, and this is not for the faint of heart. This story, make no mistake, is a tragedy. Whether you want to feel for Aaron Hernandez or not is not wholly relevant to me because some of you will feel for him and some of you will simply call him a felon, criminal who could also catch footballs. Some people will say, oh, it all makes sense now. Some people will say, wait a minute, is that true? Keep in mind when you are doing a limited series, 10 episodes, which is based on a podcast released by the Boston Globe and Wondery, which is why if you're really paying attention and you watch the show, one of the producers is Linda Henry. Linda Henry, John Henry's wife, Fenway Sports Group, owner of the Red Sox, owner of Liverpool, owner of the Boston Globe. There's always a roadmap to know why certain names are in certain places. In any case, Patrick Schwarzenegger plays Tim Tebow. There's Urban Meyer, who had a hand in Aaron Hernandez's life. There's Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, Tim Tebow. There's all sorts of characters in there whose names you may or may not know, but focus on Aaron Hernandez and the actor who plays him. Focus on thinking about causation, thinking about what do we do to protect. And I, over 18 years, didn't do nearly enough. And I've told you this. People ask me all the time, do you want to get back into running a team? And my answer is no, I did it. 18 years, I'm good. I love doing this with you every single day. But boy, would I love to write. That's not even Freudian. 4869. I would love to right some wrongs. My biggest wrong, that's hyperbole. I don't know whether it's my biggest. There were so many wrongs. One of the wrongs that I would definitely want to change is my almost reckless disregard to anything going on in a player's life other than their performance on the field. Trouble with your family? I don't care. Trouble with your youth? Don't care. Trauma? Don't care. Do your job. Come to work. Do your job. Anxiety? Mental health issues? Don't care. Your back hurts? Do your best. Play. It's amazing that I was that way. I had to literally see an MRI. Oh, I guess that is torn. That ligament's torn. Are you sure we can't pitch him through it? Any shots we can give him? Any Toradol? Any PRPs? Anything? Just to not pay a player not to play? I regret that. There are players out there, you know who you are. I'm sorry. It's called American Sports Story. Aaron Hernandez. Congratulations, Dominique Foxworth. Congratulations to the showrunners. Congratulations to all the people involved. It is a fantastic group of episodes, and start watching it. The first two came out yesterday. I was thinking to myself, maybe this morning or maybe on the plane last night, the debates that we would have in the manager's office and why only one season did we film some of those. It was called The Franchise in 2012. But some of these conversations that we have with the manager or with the GM, I can't imagine why we keep them private, because I think the public would be fascinated. Now, that's a bit of ego talking, but I do think that they'd be fascinated in what we talk about, how decisions actually happen, what matters to us more, how do we decide which stats that we focus on or which players we're going to allocate money to? Let me just give you a spoiler alert about something that every front office discusses, every one of them. And that is the case of the closer. If you have a lights out closer, it doesn't matter whether he's signed to a long-term deal. It doesn't matter if he's young, if he's old, if he's a retread. It doesn't matter if he's stunk before. But in a particular season, if you have a lights out closer, that is the single most important performing position to have on your team. Don't talk to me about performing shortstops, 30-30 guys, 48-48 designated hitters. I don't want to hear about any of that, because I'm telling you, when you talk to front offices and you ask them to tell you the truth, they would say, if you could tell me before a season started that I could get to the end of the season and never blow a lead in the ninth inning, I'm taking that over an ace. I'm taking that over a number 2 hitter. I'm taking over Ohtani, over Judge, because it is crushing. When a save is blown, it's crushing. It can set a team back a week, a month. You can lose the whole season. This didn't just start for me when Heath Bell ruined the 2012 season. Not at all. I've always had this view. If you go back and look at the closers that we had, biggest trade we did to get a ring was bringing in Ugueth Urbina, although getting Conine was pretty awesome too. But getting Ugueth Urbina to be a two-headed closer with Braden Looper back in 2003. We had closers, one-offs, Joe Borowski, Armando Benitez we brought in. We had Leo Nunez, who's not Leo Nunez anymore. His name is Juan Carlos Oviedo. Then we did free agency with Heath Bell, Steve Cishek, AJ Ramos. It's funny, going back with the thousands of players I've had, I can name closers because it's gut-wrenching when it doesn't work out, and when it does, it's a game changer. It is too bad that we don't give enough attention to the Cleveland Guardians. They've got one of the best offensive players in the league in Jose Ramirez, one of the top 5 players in baseball. Whether you've watched him or not, whether he looks like it or not, one of the top 5. Former pick of ours, Josh Naylor. Nope, that's not the focus of the Guardians. Here's the focus of the Guardians. Emmanuel Clase. He is doing something that you don't see it. He's had a streak now of a couple of years, but let's talk about this year. The number of games the Guardians have blown in the 9th is 0. Clase has an earned run average of below 1. It's 0.68. He doesn't give up runs. His team wins when they give him the ball. The pressure it puts on your opponent when you know you don't get 27 outs, you only get 24. In the playoffs, you may only get 23 or 22. Do you know how often relievers win the Cy Young Award? Not very. It's something that always flummoxed front office executives. Yes, Tarek Skubal has had a great season. There's no doubt. So is Chris Sale. And those are your favorites in the American League and National League. I mean, great Cy Young worthy seasons. How can Skubal be minus 5,000 to win the Cy Young for the Tigers and Clase plus 2,500? When people inside the game believe that what Clase has done is so far more important for the Guardians than what Skubal has done for the Tigers. Now, starting pitching, it matters. MLB's trying to make it matter more. You know my view. Love starters. Love guys who can take the ball every 5 days. Love when your team thinks it has a chance to win every 5 days. Love starters who can keep streaks going or stop losing streaks in their tracks. It's so good. When offensive players come to the ballpark and they know they've got a good starter going for them, they feel better about themselves, less pressure to eke out a run. All of that is true. But all of that pales in comparison to the feeling when the bullpen door opens and out comes Mariano Rivera. Did Mariano Rivera blow any saves? He did. I'm thinking of one that you may remember in 2001. Pretty big one. One against the Red Sox, too, in 2004. That was pretty big. You know what I'm thinking now, Coca? It's 23 years ago. When the Diamondbacks scored, was Rivera in a tie game, or was it a blown save? Doesn't matter. Mariano Rivera is a Hall of Famer, a unanimous Hall of Famer, the only unanimous Hall of Famer. And you're asking whether or not closers have a bigger impact than anyone else in the game. There's one unanimous player in the Hall of Fame. His name is Mariano Rivera. I think it's outrageous that Clase is plus 2,500. If you're looking at value right now in the Cy Young race in the American League, all you really need is a bad start by Skubal. One bad start by him and for Clase to finish it out exactly the way he's done it, and I think he wins the Cy Young. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a wait to see. Wait to see when this is a risky wait to see, and I'm making up for the one from yesterday. Wait to see when I tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. We have a document on davidsamsonpodcast.com. Every one of our wait to sees, all of our picks of the day, all of the movies we reviewed, everything is there. davidsamsonpodcast.com. We have accountability for everything we say on the show. And we review them. Like yesterday, 2 days ago, we had to wait to see that Alex Cora would not be suspended by Major League Baseball. Well, wouldn't you know it? It came out that Major League Baseball will not be suspending Alex Cora. Got that one right. Here's my one for today. Now, pay attention. Get out your pens. You may want to record this because there's a few provisos, just a few. If Clase doesn't blow a save in the last 2 weeks, he will win the Cy Young Award. If Detroit doesn't make the playoffs and Scooball has one bad start as defined by going under 4 innings pitched. Wait to see. Coca, can you fit that in the document? Do you want me to say it one more time just so our audience gets it? Here is the wait to see. If Clase does not blow a save in the final 2 weeks, he'll win the Cy Young. So he can't blow a save. But if he doesn't blow a save, he'll only win if Detroit doesn't make the playoffs. And Detroit's only a game and a half back, if you can believe that. A game and a half. If Detroit doesn't make the playoffs and Detroit has to miss the playoffs and Scooball has to have a bad start, get ready. He's pitching tonight, so this could be the night. This could be the night. So pay close attention. If you're seeing any action at plus 2,500, not too shabby. Let's talk about let's do that better, Coca. Here we go. Ready? 24, 48, 301, 405, 105, in and out, 69. Nothing. Personal pick of the day. I don't know what to say. We're 123 and 130. We're cold as ice. We're foreigner. We can't get a win. I really thought that the Orioles they got to win a game. And the Giants are despondent. They're really not all that in the race at all. They're out of the race. They're done. Blake Snell, of course, is pitching for a contract. Blake Snell, who's been relatively consistent since he came off the injured list, except for the one time we took Blake Snell and he pitched 1 inning. We went against Blake Snell and we got our butts kicked. So we're now back to 7 games under. We were 3 games under recently. We got to get tonight. We got to get tonight. We got to get tonight. What do we have tonight? We got to do it. We got a big one. Padres are playing the Astros. Remember when Dylan Cease was traded to the Padres and everyone said, wow, that's such a good pickup. He's been good. Remember Framber Valdez? Somebody thought he may win the Cy Young. Not exactly, but he's been good. We got Cease against Valdez. An MLB true starting pitching magnificent matchup. It's what they dream about. We're taking the Padres. We're taking the Padres over the Astros. The Padres, while they lost yesterday, they have been playing very well. Do you know that they're only 3.5 games behind the Dodgers? Would you have guessed that the Dodgers would have the smallest division lead of any division leader heading into the end of September? Would you have guessed that on September 18th, not one team has clinched the playoffs? How's this for a stat? The first team to clinch a playoff berth? No one would have guessed this, even me, which is sad because I love them. The Brewers. Stand up, Milwaukee. Sit down, Chicago and St. Louis. Sorry. The Milwaukee Brewers' magic number is 1 to win the Central Division. They're going to be the first team to clinch. Nobody's clinched. Forget, even clinched a wild card. Nobody has clinched a playoff spot. In theory, if the Dodgers lost every game or the Yankees lost every game, they could miss the playoffs. Milwaukee's going to clinch. How you feeling, Mets fans? Stevie Cohn's excited, tweeting, let's go Mets. Who's watching games? Who's scoreboard watching? I like when players admit that they're scoreboard watching now in September, when they're scoreboard watching the whole season. Executives saying, oh, we only start looking after the trade deadline. They're lying to you. We're looking at the wild card standings after a week of the season in April. The NL wild card is amazing. Do you know the Mets are only 2.5 from being the number 1 wild card? I don't know if you watched the Mets play, but remember when the Mets acquired Acuna's little brother? Yesterday, he just hit his first home run as a Met. And the irony is the Mets are likely to keep the Braves, his big brother's team, out of the playoffs. The Braves right now are on the outside looking in. The Braves are 2 games back of the Mets and Diamondbacks, who were tied only 2.5 behind the Padres. So if you think about it, Atlanta's only 4.5 games behind the Padres. Can you make up 4.5 games in the next 10? It's doable. Almost impossible, but doable. So Atlanta's not even out of being the number 1 wild card. The reality is Atlanta's going to have a hard time making the playoffs, and I had to wait to see that no change would happen in September. The biggest change that's happening is the Mets have done it. The Mets are 2 games up, and not only would they have to blow it, but Arizona. There's 4 teams for 3 spots, don't forget. Atlanta, Arizona, Mets, Padres. One of those four is going to miss. It could even be the defending American League, the reigning National League champions may not even make the playoffs if Atlanta catches Arizona, but not the Mets. It's going to be an interesting last 2 weeks. The American League wild card, beyond interesting. Baltimore has really lost the division now because the Baltimore cannot win a game, but they're still well ahead of the wild card. They're 5.5 games up on Detroit. So for Baltimore to lose a 5.5 game lead, it's not going to happen. Baltimore's going to make the playoffs, but they are limping into the playoffs. Not exactly what David Rubenstein would have hoped for as a new owner. Not good. But the coolest thing there is that you've got Baltimore, Kansas City, Minnesota as the American League wildcard teams, but Detroit all of a sudden is only a game and a half back. Seattle is only 3 back. We're not even talking Boston. They're done. Sorry, Alex. They're done. Aaron Boone said something funny when Alex Cora didn't get suspended. He said, well, we don't have to face him anymore this year. Just a little, like you're not going to make the playoffs. Can you imagine when the playoffs happen and MLB is going to market that they've got Kansas City, Minnesota, San Diego acts like a big market team, but they're not. Arizona has a chance to repeat. The Mets are back in. The Yankees are back in. Ohtani's in. This is MLB heaven, where the small markets get rewarded and people are writing. Ken Rosenthal wrote an interesting piece yesterday about the Royals and the spending. I think it was Ken. It was on The Athletic. I just assume it was Ken, but it may not have been. It's an interesting article that you should read about the Royals did it right. They spent in free agency. They lost 100 games last year, and now they're in the playoffs. Of course, they have Bobby Witt, who, absent Aaron Judge, is the MVP. I don't like when people say that because it's so silly. Bobby Witt's not the MVP, but he is so good. The Royals rewarded him with a huge contract. The Royals signed Seth Lugo, which is an under-the-radar, fantastic signing. It's not that the Royals did something that other teams don't do. They're getting credit as though, hey, look, they spent money. Go back and look. Teams spend money. It's just the Royals did it right. Oh, it was Brittany? Sorry, Ken. I gave you the credit when it was Brittany who wrote it about the Royals. But all teams spend, and I'm not talking about the Marlins when you only spend one player bringing in for $5 million, Tim Anderson, and then waive them. Whether you spend $4 million, $5 million, $50 million, $100 million over 3 years, defer $50 million of it, that's not what we should be focused on. Let's focus on intelligent spending. Let's focus on what I've always asked of our GM. Don't tell me to sign Juan Soto next year in free agency. We're not doing it. Find me Seth Lugo. Find me the guy who has the 4th best odds to win the Cy Young, who we gave number 5 starting money to, $15 million a year for 3 years, and look what he's done for us. Find me a combination of players, of minor league signings, of minor league free agents, of retread guys who come together and win. Yes, you can turn around a team. It's not about the $110 million that was spent. It's about the good decisions that were made by the front office. That's where the credit needs to go. MLB wants small revenue teams to be in the playoffs because they want owners to realize you don't need to overspend to make the playoffs. That's what MLB roots for in the beginning. As you get toward the end of October, MLB wants Kansas City and Minnesota to lose, and they want the Dodgers and the Yankees to be in the World Series, period. Especially with ESPN and the ability to opt out, especially with of their media deal, especially with the understanding that we need PR. The league needs ratings, even though, as you've heard on Sporting Class, ratings are not the be-all, end-all, but you need the public relations. It's great when a team with the 20th biggest payroll has a season like this, which the Royals have. It's great, but they don't want to see them at the end of October. And when you've got the Yankees and Dodgers, really, who could be on a collision course, people are calling my pick of the day, Padres, Astros. Could that be a World Series preview? Baseball certainly hopes not. As fun as it is to see what San Diego's done for people in San Diego, as amazing as the dynasty's been in Houston, it's time for it to end because broadcasters, fans. People are tired of it. The risk of having all of these small market teams doing so well, like the Royals and the Royals, the Orioles, the Twins, etc. The risk is one of them becomes the Marlins and they end up in the World Series and then they win it. I may be rooting for that. We'll let you know. In the meantime, if you're wondering why MLB likes Yankees versus Dodgers, say it with me. It's that time. It's just business. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. a.m. Pacific. This is Nothing Personal.